It's the middle of the 18th century, and Japan is under the reign of the 10th Tokugawa Shogunate. This era is commonly known as the Tanuma era, named after the powerful shogunate minister who has created a world of politics controlled by bribes and concessions. The corruption and resulting lawlessness has created menacing secret organizations, and they feed in the underworld of shadows. The people call such groups hunters in darkness, and a powerful man is the feared and respected boss to one of these groups.
Style is immensely strong and immune to nearly any weapon. When it's properly used, it's almost invincible.
So Hunter in the Dark is a 1979 samurai film, and it's directed by the great Hideo Gosha. And I will say that this is arguably his last great film, as the rest of his filmography features some very good work, but nothing quite on this level. And the first thing some of you may be asking is, where has this film been? Some of you, if you're old enough, you might have been lucky enough to find it way back in the day on VHS. But besides that, it's technically only been on a European DVD. But it does seem inconceivable that it never had a US theatrical release, that is, until recently. So that means that you can officially get this film from SamuraiDVD.com. And again, it's just a great store, tons of samurai films, many of which you really won't be able to find anywhere else, like this one. And of course, all of them are subtitled in English. As an added bonus too, you can get a discount by using the code Bushido Blues at checkout. So just the first thing I want to say about this film is that it has a very complex story. Gosha likes to introduce a lot of multiple plot lines, and he kind of just ties them all together in his leisure. So you really have to be attentive and patient. But the payoff does come in some very intense and awesome fight scenes, so definitely stick around for those. The film itself is set very specifically in 1783, and this is a well-documented period of unusual corruption. This is at the Shogunate's court, and thus in all of Edo as well. So we have the protagonist named Gamyo, and he's played by the legendary Tatsuya Nakadai. And he is the head of one of the three major underground gangs. This is what would eventually evolve into the Yakuza, though it's not for some reason called that at this time. And in this film, there are secret enforcers for the corruption known as Hunters in the Dark. And the character Gamyo is intent on becoming the sole gang leader. And he hires a Ronin called Tanigawa. And the title of this film definitely refers to him as being the real Hunter in the Dark. And to make him even more badass, he's a samurai with only one eye. But for some reason he remembers his fighting skill but not his past. But slowly as the movie goes on, he keeps running into people who recognize him from his other life. And just because of his memory loss, we eventually find that we're involved in this world where everyone seems to have had another life and another name to go with it. So things could really get complicated. You really have to pay attention to faces from the very beginning, because there really is a lot of things going on and a lot of names. And I will say my favorite character moment in this is with the character of Tanigawa. In one scene, he's sent to kill the rebels from Chiba's old clan, and he notes that there's a low ceiling in there and just a very cramped space. So instead of using his long katana, he leaves it behind for his shorter wakizashi. And instead of opening the door, he just runs straight through all of the paper walls. And I don't know about you, but that's something I've always wanted to do. And his choice of the shorter weapon definitely is the correct choice, because the first man draws and his sword gets stuck in the ceiling, and then he ends up with his arm cut off. And with all this crazy fighting going on, the guy's arm is still stuck on the sword in the ceiling. It really is just an awesome choreographed fight scene. Also, in case you didn't know, the samurai carried a set of 2 swords, referred to as Dai Sho, Dai being big and Sho being small. And it consisted of the katana, which was a minimum of 2 feet in length, and what I mentioned earlier was the wakizashi, and that had a maximum length of only 2 feet, so it was much smaller. Anyway, if I had to do a ranking of best fight scenes with the wakizashi, this would be number 1. Along of course with the final fight in the Twilight Samurai. Anyway, again, just an incredible fight, definitely the highlight of the film. It's bloody, brutal, and it all involves short quarters and lots of severed limbs. And I will say too, the final duel in this film is also very impressive. And it involves the 2 legends, NAKADAI and Sonny Chiba. So you definitely want to stick around for that. Anyway, in case you didn't know, there's just a ton of big names in this film. Tetsuro Tanba, NAKADAI, Yoshio Harada, Sonny Chiba, and they're just all great like always. And this goes both in characterization and of course the fight scenes. And I will say the women in this film are also really good too. Also, if you have good eyes, you may recognize the actor Koji Yakusho. And this was actually his first movie role. And he's just a celebrated and just great actor. Definitely one of the best actors in Japan. And I will say the character of Tanigawa in this is what I just walk away remembering the most. He really is a Ronin in the purest sense. He's a samurai that lost everything. His clan, his family, his sense of honor, even his eye. But also just a very memory of what he has lost. Only his sword keeps him alive. And even then, he is not sure why he even bothers now to live. Really, the only fact that people pay him enough money to do so. And so he just kills people order after order. And his, and even us, the audience's gradual recognition of his past definitely provides an unusual arc to the story, driving it toward inevitable tragedy, just as his recollections lead to the death of everyone around him. So I do recommend this film, but I only recommend it to those that are really experts in this genre. If you're new to just samurai films and chambara, then, you know, there's definitely other films to start before this one. What really prevents this one from being accessible is just its really confusing and convoluted story. And I also will say there is some pacing issues. So some time definitely could have been trimmed on this. It's over 2 hours long. So beginners should really start with Gosha's other films like Goyoken. Kurosawa is also a really good option if you haven't seen his yet. And of course Kobayashi's. They're all definitely easier to follow than this. But for everyone else, this actually is a must-see. You know, especially for the fight scenes, and even if you're just a lover of the chambara genre. Anyway, if you want to watch this film, once again, you can only get it on SamuraiDVD.com. Don't forget to use the discount code Bushido Blues at checkout. Also, if you want to help out the channel, you can subscribe, and I have a Patreon, all provided in the description box below. Anyway, thanks for watching.